We are here with the brand new, the one and only, the very first ever, but not the last, Undivided podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Cameron Murray. What's up, Cameron?
Carble Dank, what's up?
And we are in the brand new studio. We have spent dozens of dollars on retrofitting this upstairs baptismal changing. I looked again. Okay, I'm never going to do it again.
Just stop mentioning it and just start looking at me. You're having a conversation with me. Do the intro later.
Okay, sorry. All right, well, we are here for the first time ever. It is our brand new Undivided podcast.
Yep.
I'm so stoked to be here. How are you doing, Cam?
Doing well.
This is my co-host, Cameron Murray.
It is
and
I.
It is him. And we are in the brand new studio that we spent dozens of dollars, maybe even 20
Yeah, you
or
can tell.
yeah.
You can definitely tell.
Retrofitting this studio, which was formerly, you can't even tell, a baptismal changing room.
Change your clothes before you change your heart.
There you go. Plant that seed. And so we are here, and we're just excited to kind of have a conversation and have some fun. But how are you doing so far in the 2020 outbreak, pandemic, removal from society, quarantine, starting now and forever? How are you feeling with it?
I'm going a little crazy. I am used to going into an office. I have an hour plus long commute every day each way. And I was so happy to not have to do that. And I still am happy to not have to do it. But doing work from your living room or your kitchen or on top of my dresser, those are three places that I work from. The monitors on the dresser, not my body, is making me go stir crazy. So I hear that there's a 2-week detox period where you get used to commuting or not commuting and working from home. So I'm just trying to make it through.
So there are very few things that I hate in life more than being stuck at home. Yes. I don't want that to be confused with, like, I don't like my house. I love my house.
But being stuck.
I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my yard. I'm so excited to mow it for the first time this week. I'm pumped about that. But I hate it when I'm confined. I hate being stuck at my house. And so you guys probably know, if you don't know, we're about to give birth,
Now, not Taylor and I, Taylor and his wife.
Yeah, Cameron and I are not going to give birth. Well,
nope.
He will,
nope,
with his wife, someday,
probably not.
They will give birth.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting the future. Maybe
Neither
he's got an announcement today.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out at the end of the episode.
You
but
can cut this whole section.
he doesn't. But we're about to give birth to our third child. And so already, like, paternity leave, I'm excited to take a break when I'm thinking about regular paternity leave, just to relax, get to know our new child, get into the rhythm of family. But combining that with the fact that now it is mandatory home quarantine for 2 weeks for us because they're vulnerable, that's such a wild thing. And we don't know if that'll be 2 weeks, if that'll be 4 weeks. It's going to be crazy. So I'm like already scheming, how am I going to sneak out of the house and like go and throw rocks at trains that drive by or something like that? Because I don't like being out of the house, but I'm excited. I'm excited to rest a little bit. But what is one thing that now, because we don't like the quarantine, we don't like this virus. Obviously, it's kind of scary. It's scary about the economy. It's scary about our grandparents. I just called my grandma today. I was talking to her, and like she's having trouble breathing just because she's older. I'm like, what's going on? And there's so much fear in the air. But what's something that you're excited for these next couple weeks and as this unfolds?
Yeah, first thing on the agenda at my home is to find the rat in the attic. There's a rat or a mouse or a squirrel or a bird or a person potentially in the attic, and it taps a lot.
Could be a demon.
Could be a demon. It could be my dad. I don't know. I could find him up there. That's first order. Second thing I'm excited for, I'm excited to kind of, for lack of better terms, explore the projects that I didn't know that I needed, that I had, whether it's in my home or just in the way that I approach work. Anytime I get free time, I like the chance to be able to kind of get creative and find projects and find things to fix, and kind of pull on that thread. If I get too much time, then I'll end up unpacking the entire house, taking everything apart, and then putting it back together.
Well, you said something fascinating, like you get to get creative, and we met a couple of us the other day talking about the opportunities that we have now that we didn't have before. Like
Yeah.
the question that I think I want to be asking myself is, what can I do now because I have the time that I couldn't before? Now, I understand a lot of people are still working. I'm still working. We still have that rhythm, but there's this removal from regular routine, and we're all in this place where we're finding a new rhythm. But I'm stoked at the idea, not only personally, but even for our ministry, to reset some stuff and say, we've been talking about this. Like we all know, I mean, you've probably got things in your life like it's like this soccer ball and you just kick it into the future, knowing that you'll walk up to it eventually and then you'll probably kick it again
Yeah.
instead of picking it up. And now we're in this place where there's all the routine has been taken away. And now we've got this ball that we can pick up and say, okay, I can reorganize some of my garage. I can pressure wash my backyard, my back patio. I can pull all of the weeds that I've been waiting all winter to pull. I can edge my lawn. But it's also like, hey, we can reset all of our structure and so many of the things that we've been saying, like, oh, all of this and this and this and this is getting in the way of us being able to reset. Now we're being forced to, and I actually think that it's a God opportunity.
Well, the unique thing is that all of our routines and our systems have been shut down except for our routine of boredom. So we all have a system or a routine that we approach when we get bored.
Yeah.
So for a lot of us, myself included, when I'm bored or where I don't know what to do, I fill that boredom space with just checking my phone, checking social media. And, while all the other routines of our lives have been shut down, at the same time, all it's going to do is just amplify what our boredom routine looks like.
Yeah.
And so we have the opportunity to, especially here in the Northwest, we have the opportunity now to recreate what that routine looks like you mentioned. And so, it's just going to amplify where there's already weak points in our routines and our systems. A lot of people are going to spend the next couple weeks just playing video games, scrolling through social media and wasting time. And they're going to blame it on the fact that, oh, I didn't, everything shut down, so I can't. When it's like, no, like the fact that everything shut down actually further opens the door for you to work on yourself, to work on your problems, to focus on personal growth and development. And the fact that you didn't only further cements the fact that you didn't really care about it before.
Well, you bring something interesting up. It's that idea that, this kind of thing we were talking about earlier, it can cause us to either go to that worst place of ourselves or this, the most useless or negative habit, or it can drive us to this place where we now dig into what we didn't even remember was there. Like there's been some things maybe that have been hidden, that it's like when you hit crisis, it's like, hey, this is sink or swim. You can reach into that and actually pull something out that has been there all along. It's not like God is now all of a sudden planting things in us. It's actually God is giving us a shovel and saying, hey, you've been waiting for time to dig it. Guess what? You've got some weeks now to dig in to there. And I was reminded of, I think it was Ronnie Doss who first said it, and we've said it around here a lot, is the facts are real, but you get to decide what they mean.
Yeah.
And it's like the fact is real. We are in the weirdest time that our existence has ever seen as far as anyone alive today.
Very unique, yeah.
Other than maybe somebody who's like 90 plus years old, they've seen some epidemics and things like that have rivaled what is going on in our world today. But it's like the fact is real. There is a pandemic. Some would argue, depending on how deep into the internet that you dig, that there are some. Anyways, I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories, but the fact is, like, we're out of school. We are out of rhythm. There are some tough things going on. We get to decide what that means, though.
Yeah.
Like, I can decide, does this mean I'm going to sit and mope and be discouraged? Does this mean I'm going to spend all of my time on social media just reading and digging into everything that is so bad and everybody's opinion? Or does it mean, like, I'm going to look my parents in the eye and say, you know what? I've been going so hard, and I haven't said thanks in a while.
Yeah.
I haven't, like, just sat down. Like, what if we all sat down and said, thanks, Disney, for giving us Frozen 2, and let's watch it together?
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it be if we decided that what the facts are, though there's some negatives to it, that they mean an opportunity for us? what's an opportunity that you're looking forward to taking, not just with like your own rhythm in life, but something that you've been maybe putting off that God's been leading you in or poking at you or challenging you in your life or your marriage or your future, your plans, all that kind of stuff as you're like, you know what, this is really an opportunity from God.
Well, I think the opportunity, when I think of opportunity from a spiritual standpoint or just on the side of my faith, I think of the opportunity that I have to set a standard to my coworkers of what it means to respond to things.
That's great.
My coworkers, I don't work for a church. I don't work in a faith-based environment at all. I work in, for lack of better terms, the business world.
Yeah.
And when situations happen to me, I have the opportunity to respond and know that they're watching. And so how I respond, knowing that they know that I'm a believer, how I respond shows them or sets an example to them of what it looks like to trust God in seasons. Before the pandemic, I was having a hard time at work, and I was going through situations. And I was
you shared a little bit of your story at UD a couple weeks ago.
I did it again at Breakfast Club, and it's like, I had 6 months of really low performance at work. And a lot of my coworkers would have quit, or they would have given up, or they would have just, said poor me and gone a different direction. And the fact that I was able to kind of dig my heels in a little bit and trust and know that, like, hey, this hard work's going to pay off, was an example of what it means to trust God, that, like, hey, it's a challenge, but I'm believing in God that something good's going to come of this, and it has. Yeah. Even in the last few weeks, things are drastically changing, which is amazing. And now as we face these challenges and there's health issues in our family and there's all these things going on around us, I have the opportunity to either be fearful or be hopeful. And when we're hopeful for things, it's not ignoring or denying the fact that the fear is there, the fear is valid. It's just saying that I can see past it. And I can see beyond it. And so I'm excited for the opportunity in my life to, kind of getting back to your question, not only have the opportunity to set a standard to my coworkers, but also remind myself, when I'm afraid, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to be hopeful, I'm going to look beyond to the future and lead my family in doing so.
Well, and as you choose to frame your future, it then informs your present.
Yeah.
Like, I was reminded a couple weeks ago, we did a message called "How to Make Your Bed in Hell," and it's this idea that, like, what David said in the Psalm 139. He said, "God, you've searched me, and you know me, and you know when I sit and when I rise, and you know my thoughts from near and afar, and you discern my going out and my laying down, and you're familiar with all my ways." And he goes on to say, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you're there. And if I make my bed in hell, or if I make my bed in the depths, there you are as well." And it's this idea that it's like, whoa, David is not saying, "God, you help me to get to this place where I never have to make my bed in hell." Yeah. No, he's actually in this place where he says, when I'm in hell, whether it's hell on earth, it's pressure, it's a literal worldwide pandemic, or it's, there's some stuff going on in my family that is there's so much pressure, or I'm dealing with anxiety and depression and all of these external factors are affecting me. I can choose one or two things. I can choose to settle and just accept this as my reality, or I can choose to sleep. And the idea of sleep, and I used both settle and sleep because they both start with S, and I'm trying to be clever like that. Mm-hmm. But it's this idea that even though the reality hasn't changed, I can sleep knowing what my future is. Yeah. Knowing that hell, that this place, this making my bed in the depths, it is not my permanent residence. Yeah. I think we have to remind ourselves. I have to remind myself. I got a wife, and I've got kids, and I've got a third kid on the way, and it's happening right in the midst of this chaos. Yeah. But I know it's hard for me to imagine. We were talking down in my office 20 minutes ago about how I can't see what the future looks like. But that doesn't mean that the future is not there. Yeah. That there's still a future there.
Well, and it's also just a reality and a reminder, too, that it's like that God isn't dictated by literally anything. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter, like David was saying, it doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter the season you're going through, doesn't matter the highs or the lows that you're going through. God isn't dictated by those things. And so you could be in the worst season of your life, everything's falling apart. Our pets' heads are falling off, and here I...
Does anybody get the reference?
Dumb and Dumber.
Well, we should have given them time.
No, they weren't born. But it doesn't matter what's going on. It's
Yeah.
like God is still God.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing in that could ever happen that would change who God is or dictate or send God in a different direction. Who God's character and who He is to us is not a choose your own adventure, where every time something different happens, it redirects and reshapes God. The ending of who God is, or the core of who God is, or the beginning, middle, and end of who God is never ending, always the same, has never been changed, ever. And you see that over the course of 4,000 years of the Scripture being righted, and you see that over the course of your own life. You look back, and you can see, man, God was consistent. He was faithful. He was stable.
Yeah.
He provided in the midst when I felt I was going to lose everything, or when I did lose everything. He still pulled through. And now I can look back, or I can look forward, knowing that will be repeated, then regardless of the seasons I'm in.
Yeah, well, and you said something to the effect that God is still God during this. But I also think it's like, I think there's a moment that you experience in times like this where God really becomes God to you.
Yeah.
I'm brought back again to Psalm 91. This is something that we've studied as well. And it says, they who dwell in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. And then he says this intriguing thing. And he says, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. And it's this idea that what he's saying is my experience of God, my firsthand experience of God, is He's my refuge and my fortress. And you don't need a refuge or a fortress if there's nothing externally coming at you.
Yeah.
You only need those when there's a threat coming. And I feel like I see God most at work. I mean, He's in the highs, He's in the lows. But I feel like the lows are like this poking, where it's almost like it's poking you. Like, are you feeling right now? Are you?
Yeah.
This is like, whoa, okay, now I'm really feeling my humanity. And I'm simultaneously really feeling the presence of God in the midst of what I'm dealing with.
Well, it's almost as if the character of God guarantees that you'll face suffering.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's exciting.
When you think about it, like, okay, God, you're the God of peace. You're the God of like comfort. You are a place of refuge, a place of rest, of recharging, of safety. I can find all of those things are amazing. That is the part of the essence of who God is. Yet in those things, like you just said, it guarantees basically that you're going to need those things.
Yeah.
Like everything that God is, we need. Everything that God has to offer, I need. And so because of that, I can bank on the fact that I'm going to need peace, I'm going to need rest, I'm going to need refuge and comfort and safety and a shelter from the storm that I'm going to go through. It is inevitable, know. The Bible talks about that too. It talks about how suffering is basically guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like you are going to face those things.
Yeah, it's not like a negative promise. Like it's like some people have approached God as if He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna throw more bad things your way." No, what He's really saying, how my experience of God really has been, "Hey, things are gonna come your way, but watch, I'm gonna be right there in the midst with you. Like I'm gonna tackle you with my peace. I'm gonna tackle you with my comfort. And by the way, there are things I need for you to have in this season so that in your next one, that you couldn't have had them." There's this idea that in Scripture, there were certain songs and anthems that were only written and sung and felt in times of famine or war or this place of exile. And you couldn't experience or sing that in a time of prosperity.
Yeah.
Not that the time of prosperity was bad. No, God actually had promises of those things. But it was the times of difficulty and lack that caused people to lean into God like they never had before. And I think that would be my word. And as we kind of start to wrap up, it's this idea like, let's lean in. Let's not lean out. I felt this word the other day is like, I'm not going to brace for this stuff. Like, I'm not going to brace for the impact and wait for everything to hit so I can stand back up. I'm going to go full force, stare it in the face and say, hey, virus and the fear that comes with it and the anxiety that comes with it and everything that's going on in our world, I'm going to face it. I'm going to stare it right in the eyes and say, you can't touch me. You
Yeah.
can't come at me. And even though it will say, David said it, though 1,000 may fall and 10,000 at my right hand, it will not come near me. Look it in the eye and say, this is not going to define my life. I'm going to get through this. Not only that, I'm going to
Yeah.
come out the other side smiling, knowing that God is still good.
Well, and when you brace for something, what you're saying is basically like I'm getting myself in a position to where like I'm just going to let whatever's coming happen. So it's when you're bracing for something, you're not necessarily it's like if I'm bracing for something, I'm just kind of positioning myself to just be happened to.
Yeah.
If Marshawn Lynch is going to run at me and try and tackle me and I just brace for it, I'm just going to,
I saw him
cower
at
to
Bellevue
it.
Square, and that's what I did.
yeah, I was there.
I braced.
I remember you
carrying his
gave me a
MacBook.
peace sign. And he looked back and gave you
Gave me
a
the peace sign.
downward peace sign.
Best moment
Like
of
don't
my
talk
life.
to me, but
Other than the
I
birth of my
recognize
children
that
and my
you
wedding.
see me.
But, yeah.
But when I'm bracing for something, I'm ready to be happened to.
Yeah.
And I'm allowing whatever to happen. When you face something, you're not ignoring the fact that something's coming. You're just saying, I'm going to do everything
Yeah.
that I can. I'm going to play my part here. There's going to be a two-way battle.
It's the law of momentum.
Yeah.
It's been said that a train going at even a full speed or average speed could break through a 12-foot thick wall of bricks. So a train going at full speed could literally demolish a massively thick wall of bricks and stay on its course. Whereas a train stopped, you could put a little 2x4 wooden brick under one wheel, and that train won't move.
Yeah.
Because there's no momentum, there's no
the
inertia.
Yeah.
You have to have that. But man, when we face it, we say, we're going to lean in. We're going to get momentum, and while we have this 4, 6, 8 weeks, we're going to reach people like we've never reached before. We're going to spread hope like we've never been before. We're going to make hope go viral. Like #MakeHopeViral. We're going to do these things not because because we know what the future holds, but we're saying, you know what? When that wall comes, because it's going to come.
Yeah.
That wall's going to come. Discouragement's going to come. Disappointment's going to come. Somebody we know is going to get hurt. Things like that. And it's not a negative prophecy. It's just life. But when we come, we are not going to be stopped by that wall. We will power through that. And that's the enemy's tactics. He's got nothing on us when we are moving toward God. And I think that's the big thing is I want to lean in during this time.
Yeah.
And not just to God. I want to lean into God. I want to lean into community. We're going to lean into each other. We're going to talk about ways that we can do that as a church and a youth community, as Undivided, and a broader community for the churches and the people of God. And we're going to spread the gospel like we've never been before. I believe that this is going to be the time where more people are going to come to know Jesus than any other time in our era.
Yeah.
Here in our community and beyond, around the world. Like, what the heck is God doing? It is so big. But also, I'm going to lean into my family. I have time now with my kids and my wife. I have time with my family and people that are close to. I have time to do those things and say, man, that matters so much more. And it's bringing it all into perspective. So I think that's the big thing I want to end it with is this idea of lean in. Do you have any last words you want to say?
I think when it comes to leaning in and just kind of embracing the season, it's doing so through the lens of like getting something out of it, like going into it recognizing like, okay, I might be on quarantine. I might be quarantined for 2 weeks, or I might be out of school if you're a high school student or a junior high student. I might be out of school for 6 weeks, which is I would have loved that experience when I was in high school.
Feel bad for all the seniors.
Yeah. I don't shout out to all the kids that were in detention or ISS that no longer have to go. I feel you. I have been in that room.
I have a feeling though they'll somehow make those roll over to next year.
Yeah. I have a feeling that would suck. But when I think of kind of being in your shoes, if you guys are going into 6 weeks or you're in the middle or starting out 6 weeks of isolation and away from school, use this time to build yourself, to make yourself better,
That's
to
great.
sharpen yourself. I talk to a lot of my students all the time, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Lean into that statement. Develop new relationships. And obviously you can't hang out, face to face with as many people as you want, but use this time to let old relationships die off. Use this time to allow those bad relationships, those toxic relationships to exit your life efficiently.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can blame it on the government. You can
There you
blame it
go.
on, you're talking about conspiracies. You can blame it on them needing to recharge the batteries of the birds that are actually just surveillance cameras because
Huh.
birds don't exist.
Because birds aren't
I
real.
don't know if you knew that or not. Birds do not
Birds
exist.
are not real. Yeah.
Birds aren't real. They're just battery powered surveillance cameras.
Also, burps are way worse than farts.
That's
but we
definitely
won't
not
go.
true.
We
so
won't
don't
go
lean into that. You can
that
lean into
unless we want to.
yourself. But when I think about it, I just think like lean into the opportunity that we have to grow ourselves, to strengthen our lives, and to get better. If you're struggling
Yeah.
right now, if you're frustrated, if you're stressed out, if you're anxious, if you're worried, if you're concerned about what the future holds, lean into a spirit of hope. Allow the season that we're in to, like we talked about a few weeks ago with the cycle of hope, allow the suffering that you're experiencing or the anxiety that you feel to drive you to be hopeful. And the way that happens is by producing endurance, which creates character, which gives us hope. So the
Mhm.
next time we face something like this, we're already ready. We have the
Yep.
cycle down, and we
get
can
ready.
enter into the season of hardship with a spirit of hope,
Yeah.
which oddly enough gets you out of that season faster and more efficiently and more joyful and hopeful.
Well,
So,
this season isn't going to last forever, and so I don't think it
Definitely
should
not.
be we wait it out. I think we lean in because we got a few weeks to pump out the most creative ideas, the best things that are going to come out of this season. I'm actually pumped for it. So let's lean in. Let's ask God, what are you saying to me? What are you saying to us? And let's go for it. We're going to see the greatest thing we've ever seen, greatest season we've ever had as a youth ministry,
I believe it.
as a church, and as individuals. I believe it in Jesus' name. Hey, make sure that you podcast to this subscribe to the podcast, rate it, review it, share it, and we're gonna spread a lot of this kind of content over the coming weeks, so we're excited about it. Make sure you do that. God bless you guys. We love you. Deuces. Farts are way better than burps.